Welcome to Talking in Stations. It's News Hour with Matterall. Today we're going to talk about some huge events that's happening in the war here. Yesterday was a big day for iHubs, or maybe the day before that. But now another Keepstar has been dropped. It is dropped in the system right next to 1DQ. Let's have a look at that. This happened hours ago. I want to say probably about 8 hours ago, 9 hours ago. And it was dropped by test, and it anchored. I think the Imperium might have been caught off guard, not sure. But what we heard was in 1DQ, they were bubbling the gates because they thought that the test fleets that were one jump over were probably going to try to get into 1DQ. So they bubbled the heck out of the gates and were prepared for test coming through, but test didn't come through. Instead, Pappy dropped the Keepstar, and it anchored successfully. So within 24 hours from that point, there will be an onlining timer, and if Imperium is motivated, they will try to dispute that, as they successfully did 4 times before in NPC Delve, and then we will have one of those major fights on our hands. So we'll take you to live coverage of that tomorrow, right around 1700 UTC. Yeah, it was a big event, and we got cameras in there because we thought something was going to happen, and it just happened so fast that we weren't able to go to live coverage. But now that we have a timer, we'll see if it gets contested. We're not sure it will be contested, in which case that Keepstar will online. I'm not sure what the advantages are to that, but we shall see. It is, again, one jump over from 1DQ, which is the old headquarters with, I think, 5 Keepstars. As you can see here is 1DQ. Let's actually take you closer to that. And the Keepstar is right here in T5. So that's interesting. It's a little bit of a face-to-face. We'll just see what happens there.
It really does seem like a weekend kind of get together of like people who are trying to picnicking right off of the 1DQ.
That's Dirk McGurk. Welcome, Dirk. And Gorgorin is here with me as well.
Ding.
You have any information, Gorgorin, on the dropped Keepstar in T5?
Really? I was not online at the time. I just got pings while I was eating lunch about how we did it again, basically.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to another bit of news, and that is this guy who posts as Ned Flanders, who is probably Pandemic
Ed
Legion.
Flanders or Ned Flanders?
Ned Flanders.
Oh, Ned Flanders. Somebody posted as somebody named Ned Flanders.
Yes. We suspect.
Are you gonna take this as a reasonable source or not?
Yeah, because we look at the content, and if it makes sense, it makes sense. Doesn't matter what their Reddit name is, if they're goofy or not. He says he's from Bastion, or at least that's the flare, but we assume he's from Pandemic Legion. But he puts stuff up every 2 weeks that talks about the numbers in EVE Online as far as this war goes. So we'll take a look at what his latest numbers look like. Again, if the numbers seem accurate, we'll go with them, and they do seem accurate. You can see these big peaks here with not only Blue Goon Swarm increasing tremendously with activity as far as people showing up to help defend. This series of events here, the 4 and 5 Keepstars that went down and were anchored and online, or tried to be online in NPC Delve. That's what that whole series is right there. So you can see people showed up.
How far back was that in time?
According to this, it was October 4th, basically through the 10th, through the, I want to say the 17th. Yeah, so it's about 2 weeks in the middle of October, I would say.
Yeah, he started posting these in July, but he's compares 16 weeks ago to 2 weeks ago. So today's metrics are comparing 2 weeks ago to today and comparing August 2nd to today.
Right. So here is this second group down here is 2 weeks ago, so that's more recent, and then comparing it to 16 weeks ago here for a longer trend line. And he takes active characters on Zkill. This is the same data that I would draw from. We did it independently, so it's not the same report.
If you look at the rate of increase, and I am eyeballing this shit across all the stuff that you have out there right now, it's like way greater rate of increase when what I assume to be the Horn of Gondor was sounded and some stuff. Okay, like for other lines on that, I actually can't read it because I'm literally looking on your screen right now. But like,
it's not the Horn of Gondor.
That is a really big bump up during that particular 2-week period for them, and also bump ups across the other ones. But
Goonswarm
now it's back. Now it seems like it's back to kind of a steady state.
It's actually a decline for Goonswarm. You can see here it's mostly down. But I want to go back to this bump here when the Keepstars were actually put into place. Goonswarm had the bigger bump. It got many more players. Like I think if we look at the graph,
it's a reasonably high. That's what I was saying. It is a reasonably high level of Goonswarm players who came back during what I think was when the Horn of Gondor got sounded. But like the question is, what happened in the immediate aftermath? And everything dropped down after that. The humps were not the same for the rest of them.
Yeah. Well, it's not Gondor, though. It's unless you mean calling people who don't play the game to come and help for this one event kind of thing. But Gundor is what you mean, the Horn of Gundor.
Yeah, Gundor.
Yeah.
You know what, Matt, I give that to you. I give that to you for being able to correct, like, the pronunciation of the one thing. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Boom. Boom. You nailed me.
I had some help, actually, from chat there. Lorinda, I think, pointed it out. So I couldn't have done it without you, Lorinda. But I just want to point out that Goonswarm definitely got about 1,000 more combatants in for those Keepstar fights. So people definitely showed up. And this is when, at a time where Imperium was well under 4,000, and they got nearly 5,000 for those. So, but then again, so did Test. Test picked up some people, and Pandemic Horde picked up some people. And even Northern Coalition picked up quite a bit. So everybody was up for those fights. And now
What's the green line? What's the green line?
There's two green lines. One is the Initiative, and the other one is Brave.
Why is the Initiative down there?
Well, because
aren't they part of like?
Initiative started out at about 1,200, and they're now down to about 800.
Looks like 700.
They definitely bumped during that time, but like they've generally held steady across the entire line, right?
The Initiative has about 750 combatants. In the last 7 days, that's the amount. That's the average.
Well, your map there, though, like your graph it's not showing the 7 day. It's like
no, this is
showing multiple.
The graph is showing somebody else's references and calculations and stuff. I made my own table that did the last 7 days as of 2 days ago. So right now, Initiative is about 750 combatants, and that means characters, not people. But
like when you're showing a graph, it's like, how does that work on the graph line?
Well, this is a different person measuring it visually, so you can see that the numbers are relatively accurate because the Initiative is way down here at about 750. So we assume these other ones are accurate. If that.
So they're separated out from the Greater Goon.
Oh yeah. They're their own alliance on here. Well, the point is, new Keepstar down. Maybe we'll see one of these spikes of activity, but overall, it's been a slump for Goonswarm. It's been for Pandemic Horde. It was a slump after those Keepstars too, but they've been steady. They haven't actually been trending down. And Test has been trending up. As you can see, they went from about...
are they the red line?
No, they're yellow right here.
Okay.
Yeah, so they went... they went up about.
Yeah, again, I've got like a 14-inch monitor, so like I can't actually tell right now, but like,
Yeah.
I'm old with old eyes, and like I only have a 14-inch monitor,
Sorry,
therefore
yeah.
I can't like quite see.
There, that might make it better for you. But you can see they went from about 1,700 to about 2,000 now. Let's see if that jives with here. Yeah, Test Alliance at about 2,000 right there. You can see it. So again, we're pulling from the same source, just different representations of data. So they should be rather equivalent. But it's interesting.
One thing that seems interesting to me on this graph is that only Brave doesn't have a huge hump over the time where the Keepstar fights were. And they remained stable at their normal level during those.
Who is that?
Only Brave doesn't have
a large hump, yeah.
Yeah, you see every other alliance on the graph has a hump in the first couple of weeks of October.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they interestingly have a little one, but not much, and they basically stay the same. That is interesting. So big fights or small fights, Brave is always showing up with about 1,000 people consistently from the beginning to now. In fact, of all these groups, Brave is the most insulated from events. They have the flattest line. So they started with 1,000.
Is that what it is? 1,000? Like,
yeah, right here.
Like, can you actually measure that down to 1,000?
Yeah, it's 1,000 or like
so like Dunk
Dinkle
and all his alts, and then
his 1,000 alts.
Yeah.
Well, and who else is showing up though? Like, is he only like what Brave is?
I don't know. No, they have 930 combatants, so it's not quite 1,000, but it pretty much stays right at about 1,000, which is impressive. You're right about that.
Today it was 935. 2 weeks ago it was 934, and 16 weeks ago 932.
Yeah, Brave showing up, big fight or not, they don't just show up for the big stuff.
All of Dunk's accounts.
Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting. Okay, let's go back to the news. Oh, one more thing I wanted to point out when we talked about this table yesterday. We talked about a ratio. This has been important because it was kind of contested. Was it a 3-to-1 or 2-to-1 ratio? It doesn't really matter because that's just part of narratives. But I did talk to a friend from the Imperium, made a very good point. A 2-to-1 advantage is not a big deal if you're in a small gang, because you can punch up and possibly wipe out twice as many as you are in a small situation. But when you start getting to massive situations, 2,000 versus 1,000, that 1,000 is going to lose. 2.5, or what is it, 5,000 versus 10,000, that 5,000 is going to lose, because at a certain point, that ratio becomes very important because it represents constant damage. And in smaller groups, you can actually affect the amount of damage that's incoming. But when you have over hundreds of ships, it starts to become less and less meaningful, or more and more meaningful, because that 2-to-1 advantage is going to constantly give you all the DPS that you need to execute the plan that you have. So 2-to-1 is significant. 3-to-1 is significant as well. It's overkill, really. So Imperium is really in trouble here in Delve. I don't see a way, when everybody shows up for this Keepstar, if I don't see an effective way over the long term of defending Delve at this point, unless they can get more people, or they can somehow diminish the amount of Pappy that is participating in this war. Okay. So I just wanted to make that clear, that the 2-to-1 ratio is important. Whether it's 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 is really just a narrative issue. But, maybe it inspires you guys, the Imperium guys, to fight.
I mean, you do believe, though, that it is overwhelming odds, though, right?
Absolutely. That's the point I'm making. It's overwhelming odds. Yeah. Or it is what armies tend to do, which is to not win by a little, but completely dominate with overkill. Like, there's no such thing as, not bringing enough. There's no such thing as wanting to win with less troops. Like, you bring everything you can to bear. All right, this dude here got picked off. This is Kabas Charisma. He's from Thunderwaff Corporation. Goonswarm from Goon Swarm Alliance, and he got picked off in the Helm's Deep system. I don't know what happened there. Do you have any idea, Gregorian? This came up earlier.
Yeah. I was on the kill mail, so NC and Capital Fusion caught him ratting while Horde was forming up for a strat op, so they postponed the strat op to switch to bombers to take out the super, and then
they went back to what they were doing.
Yeah, pretty much. They caught a super out ratting.
It's like, excuse me a second. I've got to kill this super. I'll be right back.
Why it's generally a bad idea to rat in a staging system, and then went back to what we were otherwise doing.
Yeah, wild. Well, if that isn't a sign, right? You've got to be able to defend that system. One of your super carriers is thinking that he's super safe because all of Goon Swarm is piled into one system, and he gets picked off. That's a bad sign. Maybe he shouldn't have been ratting to begin with, but it's a bad sign you can't protect a super carrier when you have domination over that system. Like,
in general, staging systems are the least safe systems to rat in for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive. You would think, like, I can just call for help and get help. It looked like he did get help, but it probably was too late.
There were a few small things like caracals that showed up to drive us off. It wasn't enough for a couple hundred bombers bridging in on him.
So you guys didn't get through the gate camp. You guys jumped in through a covert Sino?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what that goes to show you is that Helm's Deep is it's porous. It's not impervious to entry. So the idea of
was the whole point of Helm's Deep to be like something that like somebody couldn't sneak into and like, you know, grab that kind of shit out of?
It's based off this, Helm's Deep is the Lord of the Rings castle. You can see it here that, is against a mountain. So even if the castle falls,
it's like somebody couldn't sneak in there and just like gig a motherfucker right in the head and then like sneak out again. It's like, well, I don't think that's what Helm's Deep was about. I think Helm's Deep was more about like the whole idea of a whole bunch of goddamn like things out there in the like down below and whatnot couldn't get there quite as easy.
I think they all end up dying in Helm's Deep.
The overrun. Right? Maybe yes, maybe like if you watch the just like people who like sit there and go fuck yeah the Spartans. It's like no dude, they died at Thermopylae. It's like don't even talk about
that. It's sexy as hell, but you end up losing the war. Yeah. All right, so that guy got picked off in Helm's Deep, which is not a great sign. It's a reminder that Eve doesn't work that way. You can't just put up the gates, close them, and lock it up, and nobody gets behind you. That's
here is the question that you do have to ask about somebody who dies in Helm's Deep today, right? In our Helm's Deep, what were they thinking? Were they ratting? Is that what was happening there?
He was caught ratting.
He was caught ratting? It's like, if you're in Helm's Deep, I don't know. Maybe there's other questions to ask.
Drayden
I'm just saying.
You need a Gandalf. So you gotta make sure
maybe you need to ask exactly what that guy was thinking, because apparently he wasn't thinking, I'm just undocking what to check my fit.
No, he was out there. There were other things out there as well.
One of the reasons why it's usually a bad idea to rat in a staging system doesn't actually apply with how the Helm's Deep area is set up right now, because it's entirely sino-jammed, and one of the disadvantages to ratting and staging is that capitals can't just jump directly to rescue you, so they can't anyway.
Yeah, well, you're right. And the Sino blocking mechanism is going to block their own capitals from saving you even behind the lines, right? If we take a look at Helm's Deep, here it is. Here's where the guy got picked off. Let me actually just zoom into that. And all the stuff behind you, you would assume is safe, but it just doesn't work that way. This is space. It's not landscape. So it's not, this is, people can jump in here if they want to using covert sinos, as we learned yesterday, and same thing here. They can jump right into your staging system and get you. And all this stuff is jammed up anyway, so you're not going to get friendlies coming to save you in the form of capitals either. So I don't know. It's a precarious situation. It's not as safe. If they had Gandalf, maybe that would work out, says Drayden. Okay, let's talk about this, Dirk, before you have to go and go do Open Comms, your show. This is the partnership program. Are you a partner? Are you going to be a partner?
I assume that Drayden's going to be a partner.
Drayden?
I'm not going to be a partner. I don't need to be a partner. I can afford to, pay my own subscription or any of that shit, but whatever.
Yeah.
And buy my own.
You can buy your own tickets. You're coming in and out.
No, I was kind of doing that. I can afford to buy my own Plex. I can afford to buy my own skins. I can afford to buy my own, subscription. It's whatever.
All right, but should CCP be doing a partnership program for content creators? What do you think?
Of course they should. And this has been one of the problems throughout the years of the old program that they had. It was really geared towards what was happening back in the day. So you had bloggers and podcasters, basically. That was it. When streaming came along, CCP could not catch the fuck up for some reason or another. The big question is now whether or not they're going to overblow their wad on trying to be too much to too many people, as opposed to back in the day when they were too much to too few. Okay, right? Because we had basically free tickets for FanFest and eVegas and those events that CCP was throwing. But now it's oh look, we'll dribble some shit out there for you people to throw away. You get a free account. You also get some free Plex. You get some skins and stuff like that. And
Special
guess
skins. What?
If you want to have somebody that wants to come and freaking be a voice on your show, they'll do that. Or whatever interview process you want to have or any of those sorts of things. I feel like it's trickling a bunch of shit out there over way more people now as opposed to too few. And it was too few back in the day. Way too few.
Well, I don't know if it's too few now, because CCP Dopamine, who's in charge of this program, I believe, for the community team, says, I am stoked to see so many applications for the EVE Online Partner Program submitted within hours from the announcement. Time to roll up our sleeves and start processing them. It is going to take several days, so just sit back and relax.
And I absolutely believe that to be the fact. The minute that they sat there and said partnership program, and they laid out what the ideas were for this and things, I believe that there were going to be thousands of applications that they're going to have to go through. I do. Whether it be from streamers or from everything else thereafter, because we know that what has changed in the last few years is streaming. And this is one of the things that was holding them back. They weren't encompassing streamers. And now everybody's your mom is a streamer, dude. She probably does an hour or two of EVE a week just by streaming you doing streaming some EVE.
No, my mom is not a streamer. She doesn't even speak English. Well, actually. But yeah, a lot of people.
But what if they go Spanish?
Yeah, right. Localization. Why do you think I'm trying to get that
exactly?
Out?
I know exactly. So your mom can stream. My mom. I get it.
Drayden says, "Mom are all." All right. Well, we went over this yesterday, but I wanted to get somebody like Dirk McGurk, who's been really doing the meta talk circuit for generations now.
Here's the problem. Back in the day, they did have a program for this. Okay, they did, and it was basically for podcasters and bloggers. Like, that was it, because that's what we had back in the day. I'm an old school guy who fucking talks about old school things. All right, they did have that. Right, streaming came along, and like, honestly, it did not take off right away. There were people out there trying to do it and all that kind of stuff. It did not take off right in the way, but like, then it did, and it's like, well, how do you include these people into it? They found a way, I believe, to be able to do that.
Right.
Honestly, when you look at their criteria overall, though, it's damn, like, they're trying to encompass all the things. What they really need to do is, like, try and focus a little harder on the what's going to take them forward, right? What's going to take them forward from kind of a media sort of standpoint.
Well, this is clearly a way of encouraging people to keep doing the creativity that they're doing. And I don't think it's going to cost them a lot. They had some art, they are going to lose a subscription from each of the people they deem worthy of partnership, plus 500 Plex. So that person can either give that away, or you can spread it around to a different account or to people. I don't know what that's for. And
I'm not gonna lie. Matt. I've only been on here like in the past few weeks, even before this got released. I've only come on here once in a while because, like, I want a piece of your 500 freaking Plex.
You want like 18 or 20?
I believe that I have been on here the last, like, like how many Thursday nights? 48 Plex.
Oh, okay. Well, we don't have it yet, so we're not sure we're going to get those. But it is a way of keeping the marketing going, to keeping the players creating the content going. What's interesting to me is looking at this. You had this program that was being developed by, I believe, Falcon about 2 years ago, and they were trying to put it together. I don't know what the holdup was. But really, it wasn't talked about after it was announced that they were in the process of working it. And for a long time, it languished. And I think you saw CCP Dopamine say, well, great thanks to CCP Aurora from the community team. She's a new hire for putting this thing up and making it go. And you get a real sense that programs at CCP depend on enthusiastic developers to really champion something. And you start thinking in terms of, like, well, the Alliance tournament, did it kind of fold after, I forget his name, the Irish guy with red hair, Dev, who was really a big part of that. Did it lose Logibro? Did it lose a lot of momentum? And is CCP Aurora, is she the one putting all that effort behind CSM? Is she one of the ones putting all the effort behind these streams that are going out? Not her alone, but it takes a motivated person.
CCP Aurora is probably one of the ones there, and I am going to throw this out there, as well as Dopamine, about expanding it out there in the other genres of what creates kind of the EVE community media thing, okay, which I tried to do years ago when I thought about podcasters and bloggers and all that kind of shit, like, at the same time. Like, you got to think about all these things and the way the whole media sort of thing around EVE Online brings itself in, right?
Yeah.
Like, it, don't just say yeah. Like, the whole idea back in the day was it was really snug. It was really snug, okay? And they could manage that way easier. It got bigger. And now they're having to recognize these people out there in a way that they didn't have to before. So it's like this is really great. I think this is like a first attempt at it. And like everything that CCP seems to do, the first attempt is like not the easiest thing. They're going to have to come back to this yet again.
Yeah, let me show you something that oops, it's one of the thrills of my EVE career is this. To me, this is one of the greatest trailers they made. It's the 15-year celebration trailer, and it gets you pumped up. If you know about EVE history, this gets you pumped up. It really works on you because it shows you the progress and the timeline and all the names that flash in front of you that actually did things in the game and the organizations and stuff. And it goes through a timeline. So this is a beautiful trailer to really let you know you've done something here if you're still playing EVE or if you played EVE in the past. Then it got to the end. And when I first saw it, I saw this Keepstar and all these faces on it. And I thought, oh no, these are just content creators. You ruined this great trailer about people that did things in the game that were meaningful. And now you've put these faces of personalities that haven't done anything in the game. So why did you do that? And I think what they were trying to say is, this is the evolution. This is the future. So I'm going to play that right now.
Hold on. If you play that, just know that what's his face from Northern Coalition is on there like 2 times in 2 different places. And
Killer B, yeah.
Killer B is like honestly, they weren't even really good about what they were doing at the time because Killer B's on there twice, but like still.
Yeah, I kind of felt like it was a huge mistake when I first saw it. Then I saw my face on that. You'll see me next to Matani, right? We'll be right next to each other because I was working at INN at the time. And I still don't like that ending, just for the record. But we're going to play it for you right now, just as a little break. So here you go.
On 6th of May, 2003, a universe was born. An expanse of untapped potential. Then came life. And union. You ventured forth into the unknown, spreading out to the farthest reaches. Humble beginnings gave way to pioneering frontiers. You forged your diplomacy among the blaze of stars. And you drew your lines in the sand. Your rivalries shaped your world, triggering wars of unprecedented scale. Breathing life into the galaxy, you wrote the history of EVE. Countless stories of greatness, treachery, and rebellion. A tapestry of emerging and collapsing empires. As the greatest events of your past and the achievements of your community have become legend, the future is yours to write.
Whoa. All right. So that was that video. How can you not get emotional watching that one? It's all right, we'll let you guys finish watching that. Dirk, are you still here?
I am.
All right. So that, to me, that video is like my favorite. I like a lot of trailers But that one,
really, out of all the trailers of EVE Online, that was like your balls up fucking favorite.
It really was, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Again, it's not just because I'm in it, but if you take that part out,
I think it's because I'm not gonna lie. I think it's just because you're in it.
It's not. It's not. I'm actually in this next Pulse one too. We'll show you when they talk about this EVE Online partnership.
The one from today.
The one from today, yeah. And that's not why I like
you and Elise Randolph and
Headliner, and of course Arcia. Yeah, the four of us are on there. But which I thought was kind of cool. It was neat.
So you also like that too.
Yeah, no, that's my favorite for.
So before today's Pulse, yeah. You also like this other one that you were also in.
Yes, no. But that video that I just showed you was my favorite because it really, for anybody who's kind of cares about the stories of EVE Online, like I do. I don't care about the meta. I don't care about the drama. I really hate being a part of it all. But I love the stories. I love the people that created them, the creativity it took to create emergent gameplay. That's what I like to celebrate. And that's what that video celebrates really well.
I thought that video celebrated a whole lot of like streamers and stuff.
At the end, yeah. Which I think, and this is why I bring it up and showed it, they're telling us that is the future. The future is the part of the game is going to be.
And that video is a couple of years old now. Like,
yeah.
Right? It's a couple of years old?
It's like 3 years old, yeah.
I mean, they did recognize it when, like, streamers started to come on. It's like the same time when what we're talking about in terms of like, partnership program back in the day started to catch traction with, well, wait a second. What about what's also happening out here in other realms, especially the streamer realm? Like, that was really where it happened. Where this whole new thing kind of came on in the last few years. Like, I actually remember being out there and doing stuff and whatnot. And like, streamers were like these like second-class citizens.
I don't know. There was, again, you've been doing this for generations and generations, right? You've been doing it for.
Well, no, I am not. I'm not old and also super old, but like
you're just old. No,
I'm just old.
When I say generations, I'm talking about generations of players, right? Because we've had waves of players come into the game and stuff, and
like EVE generations.
Yeah, EVE generations, right? It's like dog years.
I'm probably like definitely a second generation, but I'm not like like a fourth generation EVE player or anything like that. Like, I don't admit to be that.
No, not the player part of it, but I was listening to you before I ever started writing, before I ever started podcasting or any of that kind of stuff. And you're always the guy for me that was like, yes, let that guy talk. He knows what I'm talking about.
Why weren't you the guy who was like, oh my God, stop that guy from talking?
Well, this is when you were doing like daytime shows and stuff. So it was like Coffee Dirk. Which was, you always said the thing that was on my mind, because I thought you were protecting the little guy.
The fact of the matter is that the technology finally caught up to kind of EVE, right? Like, but it caught up to them multiple years ago. We knew people years ago who were doing the streaming, and they weren't getting any recognition at all, even though some guy with like a podcast or whatever, a blog that like literally nobody was reading, was getting a free pass to FanFest. This is how this shit happened. Like, it literally happened like this. Yeah. Okay. The technology went by them, and people were saying, well, why aren't you counting us?
I don't know what you're talking about, but
you don't know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
Okay.
But
back in the day, the way that the program worked, okay, was if you had kind of like a player website, or you did a blog or whatever the hell it was, okay, back in the day, you basically got like, I don't know, like a free account and you got free tickets to FanFest. And then when they started doing multiple things like Vegas and things like that, also like, either or FanFest or Vegas or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it never included other people, like with the advance in technology of things like Twitch.
Well, yes.
And granted, at first, Twitch was like this bullshit thing where they're like, oh, fuck it. Nobody's watching this shit.
Yeah, it's purple.
Okay? Nobody cares about it. And then all of a sudden, they did.
Yeah. Well, they did have a program before, so that they had a program before, and they would pay your account, and that was all they would do essentially. Then every once in a while,
pay your account and give you free full ass fucking tickets.
Oh, that came later.
These other things
that came later, but yes.
And if you had a website that also counted.
Yeah.
Like TotalEve.com or
Yeah, that stuff came later when people started becoming news.
No. That was kind of originally a thing, because the whole idea was the old school sort of technology of it, as opposed to where things migrated to after that.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on now from that. You're going to let Drayden apply, and I think he said he is going to apply. He's in the audience now. I think he said earlier. So good for you guys at Open Comms, which is on tonight. We'll go to them later.
I mean, I'm not going to allow Drayden to apply. I think that Drayden should be the one to apply.
That's what I just said. You're going to...
I'm not going to allow him. I'm like,
Okay.
I'm not his daddy.
I see your point. Yeah. Right. It's his show too, and he can apply if he wants to. Okay, next thing we're going to tackle is another video here. This is the Eve Pulse.
Welcome to the Pulse, your regular burst of news. The explosive velocity update. Welcome to the Pulse, your regular burst.
Can you wait? Can you wait, YouTube? Can you wait? Thank you. All right, so we're going to run through this. Take special note near the end when they talk about the people that were in there. And then we'll see you right after this.
Welcome to the Pulse, your regular burst of news from New Eden. The explosive velocity update to EVE Online is coming on the 24th of November as part of the Phoenix Quadrant. There will be changes to damage application for torpedoes, as well as updates to Dreadnought-class hulls such as the Phoenix and the Moros, and also balance changes to the Griffin Navy issue and stealth bombers. A new Abyssal Proving Grounds event is also now live in EVE. Until downtime on the 24th of November, you can engage in 2v2 tactical destroyer combat. Don't forget to check the news item for details on limitations and keep track of Capsuleer performance using the leaderboards. EVE Portal, the official companion app for EVE Online, has just had a major update. Alpha players now have full access to all features, including the G2Plex market and skill management. EVE Portal is also now localized into more languages, and you can now trade and use skill injectors. Japanese localization for the EVE Online client will become available on the 8th of December. The EVE Online webpage, EVE Store, account management, player experience, official forums, an official EVE Twitter account and the EVE Portal companion app have already been introduced with Japanese localization, with even more to come following the 8th of December release. This weekend marks the finals of the Alliance Open tournament hosted by EVE NT, with last week's action serving up explosions, joyous victories and stunning defeats. There were massive upsets such as Vidra being knocked out of the losers bracket by Warlords of the Deep, and a single Brave Alliance Griffin jamming out Fraternity's wildcard Etana, turning the match in their favour. Be sure to catch the finals this weekend on EVE NT's Twitch channel and check out CCP TV's EVE Academy stream from the 19th of November on what to look for when watching an EVE tournament. If you're a content creator, the EVE Online Partnership Programme is our way of saying thanks and is here to help you to continue to grow your audience and to serve the EVE community. The EVE Online community is full of passionate players who dedicate their time and talent to create content that enhances player experience in and out of game. Partners will receive game time support, exclusive skins to give away, access to developers, and promotion for their content. Be sure to check out the link in the description for full details and guidelines. The popular Hazard Control skin has returned to the New Eden store. Originally available for select Minmatar ships only, the series has been expanded to 52 Minmatar ship types. In addition, you can get 25% off the Morfight Shine and Tron Hadar Ink skin lines until downtime on the 24th of November, after which they will be retired from the New Eden store. The monthly economic report is now available. Remember, you can download all of the raw data used in the report by following the link in the blog, and all images can be enlarged. We're proud to announce the Rix Javix collection of EVE merchandise for the EVE Gear store. This special collaboration brings Rix's unique artistic style to life, so be sure to check out the Freaky Frigates t-shirt, magnet set and journal set in store. That's all for this episode of The Pulse. Thank you for joining us. Remember to check the description below or the comments on Facebook for more information on the stories we've covered. Hit subscribe to stay notified of any new videos that we post.
That's not what I was trying to do, but okay, that'll work. That Rick Javix shirt was awesome. The frigate shirts, those were beautiful. And they mentioned there the Alliance tournaments. I want to make an announcement that you should see the Alliance tournament. It's in its final weekend this weekend, so make sure that you watch it both Saturday and Sunday. It's a really good gameplay. And he highlighted a couple of the matches there that happened last weekend. So check that out. That's run by Eve NT, and you'll see Elise Randolph as one of the announcers there. Yeah, that's hilarious. Buttercup77 says only $2,000 for shipping costs. It cracks me up because Eve's stuff costs so much money to ship. The item would cost like $35, but it would be like $90 to have it shipped. And that was always one of the problems with ordering something from Eve Online. One thing that caught my attention was the Eve Japanese localization, which I believe they had, and then they put it aside to fix it up, and then they brought it back, and they've announced that it's going to come back now. But they said they already have some of the... see, we'll look at the story itself. They already have some of the localization in place. A little confused by that, but I'm assuming that by December 8th that the Japanese localization will be finished and polished, and that'll be great for them. And then he said, and there will be more. And I don't know if he means there will be other languages or if there will be more work on Japanese localization. So I was a little bit thrown by that. I would like to think there's more localization on the way, matching some of the languages that exist in the mobile game Eve Echoes. But it would be nice to see a lot more languages come to EVE Online, because those are clearly adjacent players to EVE Online players. They're just blocked by a language barrier, so to be able to reach them might prove beneficial. Last thing is this Proving Grounds is back, and we're going to do 2v2 tactical destroyers. That's the 20th today through the 24th, so you have 4 days to get in on this. You can use a Confessor, a Hecate, a Jackdaw, Sveeple to fight in this. So check that out if you want to have some PvP that's guaranteed, because there will be an opponent in that ring. It's 2 enter, 1, or I guess in this case 4 enter, and 2 will emerge. At least one side will emerge victorious. All right. That wraps up the news. Go ahead.
Did you see that Rorqual that went down while the show was running?
No, where is that?
Check podcast channel. 43 billion ISK, and since most of that was Blueprint originals, it could be a lot more, especially since there were also a lot of Blueprint copies, which, depending on the research, could themselves be fairly valuable.
This is a wormhole kill, it looks like.
Yeah.
Taken out by...
It was killed by Banshee, which is a Polish wormhole corp. And looking at the corp kill board that owned the Rorqual, since it was owned by a corp floating in space and didn't have a character attached to it, I think this was just a holding corp, that since most wormhole corps have a separate corp to hold their structures, and it was sitting in a POS where they kept their stuff, and it looked like that hole didn't have any activity for any meaningful activity for a couple of years. So this looks like it was probably left over from before Citadels were a thing.
Wow.
So they just found this loot pinata, and it was a pinata.
Let's look up Blueprint Original for those capital parts. Of course, it depends on the research, but I think max for those things is like 2 billion each. But those are not, they're different than ship. Ship ones will actually end up running a lot more than that. This looks like a lot of capital building stuff here. And those fully researched can go for about 2 billion. Here they're listed for about 1.3 to 1.7, which is their buy price. It's their normal buy price. So yeah, it won't go up much higher, but it's already at 18 billion. But it could go to, I would say, another 10.
And some blueprint copies can sell for a considerable amount themselves, so the copies that are shown on the kill mail as 0.01 ISK could themselves be pretty valuable. It's like how Abyssal stuff doesn't really show its true value on Zkill.
Right. It's hard to tell. If this is an Archon, there's an Archon blueprint in there. If it's an original and if it's research, that thing could be worth a lot.
Yeah, the kill mail will say on Zkill if it's a copy, but and it'll show as 0.01 ISK in value, but the copies themselves could be pretty valuable.
Yeah. Templar blueprint, again, depending on how that's researched, that could be really, really valuable. That's got to be a copy because that's faction. Here's the Archon, and this would go for maybe 4, depending on the research again. Yeah. Ouch. Well, somebody got a good kill, and let's see how much dropped. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's a huge kill. Yeah, a good chunk of it. 42 billion.
Yeah. It looks like this was left behind from a Wormhole Corp that had been inactive for a long time, so I don't know if anyone is going to particularly miss what was going on, since I don't know if the people who owned it are still around, since it looks like the owner was inactive. But yeah, that's an impressive kill mail.
Yeah.
They were bashing the pos to look for a loot pinata, and they definitely found a pinata.
Ouch. Well, congratulations to, was it a Polish corp you said?
Yeah, Banshee is how it's pronounced. Bean shit is how it's spelled, but it's...
Oh, that's Banshee? Okay.
Yeah, that's Banshee.
Banshee's in the Nameless Alliance? Is that a Wormhole Alliance?
Yeah. Banshee is the Nameless Alliance. Most Wormhole Alliances are a single corp.
Yeah.
Back when I lived in Wormholes, until about a year ago, I fought them a couple times.
Yeah. So how long ago was that? Just to give an idea of how long that corp's been around.
Yeah. They're an old corp, but I was living in Wormholes last year, and I fought them a few times while I was living in Wormholes.
Take a look at these guys. What a great score. There used to be a date here. Why isn't that around anymore? Well, I guess I could go by this here. It's 2016. No, 2012, so they are pretty old. This is their YouTube channel. I want to see if they speak him. No. Just music. All right. Well, that was interesting. Little side note. Thanks for giving that. That just happened now, right? Right when we were doing the show?
Yeah, it happened at 01:06 Eve time, so right as the show was starting.
Right on. 42. Was it 42 billion ISK kill?
42.863 billion.
Ouch. All right. Well, good for them. That's awesome. Okay. Do we have anything else that you wanted to talk about? Do you have any questions from the audience? You guys want anything answered? As long as we're here. If not, we'll wrap it up for this weekend. And stay tuned for this next show. We'll send you over to Open Comps in just a second once they get started. But I want to say this weekend we're going to be doing the Sunday show, and hopefully we'll have Elise on there, hopefully, to tell us what happened with the Alliance tournament that's going to be in its final days. One more thing as a reminder, I want to thank, we have a few new supporters through our Patreon. That is patreon.com/Matterall. And I want to say thank you to those guys. I'm not sure they want to be publicly known, and I only know their email, so I can't really use that. But they know who they are, and I want to say thanks. I think one guy cited the newsletter as something that he really appreciates. So I want to make sure that you guys have that information in the game. Under your mail section, your mail UI window, at the bottom left, you'll see there's mail lists that you can sign up for. And if you sign up for TIS News, you'll get our newsletter that we put out every weekday. So make sure that you get into that.
Oh, I just realized another thing that could tell us how long that Rorqual was in the POS. If you look at its fit, all of its tank mods are shield hardeners, not shield extenders. So it must have been in there since before capital shield extenders were a thing.
Oh, can you imagine coming back to the game and having that happen? That would be so bad. But it happens. Oh, the poor guy. I feel so bad for him.
Yes, that also happens a lot with people logging in their supers into lowsec and finding that because of the fighter changes, their fighter bays are overloaded, and so they can't even jump out. And because of the way the capital tank works now, with plates and extenders being a thing, as well as super EHP being nerfed, their ships are under tanked, and then they get picked off by hunters like Ivana or Dank Guy or RC or other groups like that.
Yeah, just waiting.
Yeah, those guys. Yeah. That happens.
Yeah,
and this happened with a similar thing, but with a ship in a wormhole POS.
Yeah. Okay, one quick question here by Drunk Canuck, Canadian, I suppose, has CCP released any info on how much ISK has been stolen from ISS so far? And to my knowledge, they have not released anything publicly. Perhaps we'll get on some CCPers, if not this week, the next. They normally want to let that go 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, and then they'll make some kind of announcement. They want it to get a good, thorough going over, so that when they announce it's impressive. You know, it's a proper pattern. So yeah, sometimes they'll say, "Hey, first day we got 1 million of this or 1 million of that," but usually for a feature, they want to talk about it as successful after a few weeks. So it's not a surprise they haven't yet. But we'll look for that ISS money, how much has actually been destroyed. The only thing we know so far is that Fraternity, who is the most efficient at defending their people as they rat and mine and all that, their income for ratting has gone down 50% according to their leader Noros. We talked about that yesterday. And if that's the case for them, I imagine everybody else is suffering even more because they're not as well defended.
Yeah.
But who knows? All right. That's all we have. Oh, go ahead and I'll wrap up.
Fraternity often gets accused of botting. I'm sure that there's a decent amount of truth to it, but I think that the accusations are not entirely fair, because they do have enough real people who are willing to just form up to defend their crabbing, rather than just dock up until the threat is gone, like bots do.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Gregorian. Thanks, Dirk, for coming in earlier. And the OC guys, the Open Comms. We're going to send you over to there if you're not already over there. Please enjoy Open Comms. Thank you for joining us here at Talking in Stations, and we will see you this weekend on Talking in Stations Weekend Report. Take care.